So there's a teaching from where, I don't know, about rocks. And if you go and climb a mountain, you look at the rocks on the mountain peak, they're all jagged. And if you go down to the side of the river, and the rocks, same chemical composition, but they're all beautiful and rounded. And they're all rounded because the water means they rub against each other. And they rub against each other and they become very beautiful. So the idea, friends, is that if you spend a lot of time on your own, you're like a rock on the top of the mountain, kind of jagged. It'd be quite impressive, but when you live in a community, it's like you're a rock living on the riverbank, and you rub against each other, and you rub against each other, and you become very smooth and beautiful. So there's always going to be a certain amount of friction in community life. And that's not a drawback of community life. You know, that's part of the reason why we live in community. So there are defilements that are worked on most effectively in solitude, particularly the 5 hindrances. In solitude, where you can arrange your schedule, you don't have any distractions, duties, responsibilities, expectations. You want to walk, you can walk. You want to sit, you can sit. You can gain the advantage of continuity. You can develop an intensity, a momentum of practice, which is almost impossible living in community. So it's a good thing to do on occasions, but it's not like the real practice. It's not necessarily superior to living like this. It's complementary. You don't have to choose one or the other. And living in community, like Catholics, they wear hair shirts, and we don't have to do that. We just, living together is like our hair shirt. You know, you're always a little bit uncomfortable because you're living with people who don't look at you in the same way you look at yourself, have ideas about you, some correct, some incorrect, some incomplete, and it's just not that comfortable living with other human beings. You know, there are all kinds of rewards of living with other human beings, but it's not a unmixed blessing. It's uncomfortable, but it's in that uncomfortableness, that discomfort, that we learn a lot of things that we need to learn, and it's very difficult to learn in solitude, particularly the whole cluster of defilements dealing with views, opinion, conceit, pride, self-view. All these things can just burrow away when you're in solitude and just hide in a corner. But they're mercilessly exposed when you're living in a community. You can turn the other eye and just look away and pretend it's not there, but don't expect other people to. So this is why it's so important, and don't get frustrated or feel that there's something going wrong or something fundamentally awry when you have these personality conflicts, differences of opinion, and so on. This is the grist for the mill. And if we keep returning to this core teaching of the 4 Noble Truths, that there can be no suffering without defilement in the mind. There can be difficulties I mean, physically, of course, if somebody was to thump you in the face, yeah, they can cause you physical pain. But nobody can cause you mental pain. This is such an important point to remember, because we often say this, oh, he or she just made me so unhappy, or he and she disappointed me so much, and relinquishing responsibility for one's mental health and blaming other people. But in Buddha Dhamma, what we say is that the actions and speech of others are triggers. Sometimes they can be very potent triggers of mental suffering, but they are not in and of themselves sufficient cause for us to suffer. There has to be some answering defilement. It's a co-production, basically. And so if you don't contribute defilement, resistance, anger, and whatever it might be, and don't allow that to grasp onto the trigger, then there's no inner suffering. So whenever you feel this first twinge of discomfort and irritation and feeling peak, noijai, or so, that's it. That's your object of meditation. What's going on here? Oh, he said this, she did that. No, that's the trigger. Where's the cause? So when we talk about causes and conditions, externally, the situation, the people, these are conditions. But the cause is in your heart. So when you feel unpleasant, uncomfortable, the tendency is, I just want to get away from this, I don't like this, I don't want this. Distract yourself. No, we just face up to it and just feel it. Just fully feel it. How does this feel? Irritation. How does this feel being misunderstood? How does it feel being taken advantage of? All this, it's just a normal, run-of-the-mill stuff of community life. And just breathe in and breathe out and feel it. Oh, it's like this. And what am I adding to this? What am I contributing to this? So rather than attributing blame, you create a map of contributions. So what's contributing to this? Oh, that person's behavior, those person's words. These are contributory factors. These are conditions encouraging us to suffer. But the cause, where is the cause? And we know the answer. You see, it's like one of these textbooks where they got the answers in the end, but somehow you have to find your way from the question to the answer. And the answer is, it's either Gama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, or Vibhava Tanha. It's the craving for some sensual pleasure, enjoyment, experience, desire to become, to be seen as, to be loved, to be respected, to be somebody, or the desire to get rid of. So there's a limited number of options to search through. But there will always be one of these kinds of craving in the mind if there is suffering. And Ajahn would teach the Westerners who had only very rudimentary language skills. He would, these short, pithy sentences, which could easily be understood. And the one that he used the most when I was first at Wat Pah Pong is Tuk Prakit Pit. So Tuk is dukkha, prak because, kit is thinking, pit is wrong. So like it's dukkha from wrong thinking. And that's a wonderful mantra to the moment you feel that the first tremors, the first kind of sense of something not quite right, then you tune into that and say, where is the wrong thinking? So the one one point to make here is the Buddha taught Dhamma Vinaya. He didn't just teach Dhamma. And what that means is that in this analysis of where's the cause, okay, we can see that this particular kind of pride and conceit and desire to be seen as something and to be liked and is the cause, and the conditions are the way that people's behaving, and then you can put that down, and so there's no more internal dukkha. But that's not the end of the matter. Resolving the inner dukkha is not necessarily the end of the matter, because there's the vinaya dimension. So if someone is behaving badly, flouting the agreements and conventions of the group and causing disharmony, then that has to be dealt with on the vinaya level. And that may mean having some meeting and discussion, or it might be a one-on-one discussion or a group discussion, or asking the Ajahn to address something going on in the community. That would depend on a particular issue. But this is a common misunderstanding in Thai Buddhist circles, that when you're being mistreated in a certain way and somebody's acting badly, as a Buddhist your job is just to let go and not react. But that's one part of it, it's not the whole of it, because we always also have this dimension of vinaya and creating and sustaining families and communities which are supporting the growth in Dhamma of all people present. And if someone is undermining that deliberately, then action needs to be taken. It's not just an individual thing as, well, I can live with this now, I'm used to this, I don't suffer about it anymore. Yeah, that's great, that's wonderful, but it's just one side of it, it's the Dhamma side. We also have to see whether there is a Vinaya side which also needs to be addressed. So this is the reflection.